Tank, what's up, brother? I'm glad to see you, man. I know you had I don't know, you were gone off social media for what, 2 years or so? Was it about that?
Yeah, man, I think it's approximately like 22 months or so.
Yeah. What was the reasoning, the logic behind? Because I mean, you had a lot of people who were following you, a lot of people who were inspired by what you were doing. So it just seems like you went AWOL a little bit. I'm sure you had your reasons. I'd like to hear what they are.
Yeah, man, honestly, there were a lot of reasons. You know, I first off, I got on social media because I was, a veteran who I just needed to connect with people, and I thought funny, crazy videos would do it, and
Yeah.
that's what I was doing. And it was a blast at the time. And then it became like a cesspool of nonsense every day, all day. I started to lose myself. I started to lose my own personal beliefs and things, and then I started to see rumors on the internet about me that I didn't believe in and that just weren't true. And mind you, there were things that were true about me, and I had to put myself in check. I had to drop my ego, and I was like, man, those things are true and those things aren't. Either way, there shouldn't be something that I find on the internet that is true about me that I'm disgusted at. And so one day I decided to just get off, man, and really just put my phone down, delete everything, not put it on hold, Ryan, but delete it so I don't have a chance to come back on and like feed that little seed. So
Right.
I just deleted everything, man. I deleted Instagram, my Snapchat, and my Facebook. I was talking to somebody not too long ago, and I had close to 300,000 people on Instagram. I had around 2 million on Snapchat. I was getting at
Dang.
least 2 million views a week on there. And I think I had around 1 million on a Facebook. There was a lot of stuff that came with that, to include responsibility. And it was just time for me to go, man. Deleted it all.
What did you feel like you learned, and then why do you feel like the timing now was right for you to start getting involved and putting yourself out there and sharing what it is you've been sharing over the past several months?
Well, what I learned getting off was that I think we spend too much time on our phones and away from the reality of life. When I was a kid, man, 10, 12 years old, I rode bikes every day, and I went out and played baseball, and I wore myself out, and I was tired at school the next day. Then we talked about what we were going to do when we get out of school. It never involved a phone. And, I realized that, through my divorce and things that I went through in the past, that I'd spent way too much time on my phone and missed too much precious time with my child, and then focusing on my marriage or the people that really mattered to me in my life. And so I look back now and I'm like, man, I literally spent hours a day wondering what everybody else was doing and how many likes or how many views I was getting on something. And it was a waste of my entire time. And so I'd learned that life was too precious to pass up, especially too precious to be spending time on a phone or worrying about some app and what people think about me. So the 22 months was really for me to regroup my mind, really to get my heart back in the right place, and to really focus on the things that really matter in rebuilding my relationships with my family and my closest of friends. I learned a lot during the time. I learned the people who were not really there for me, and I learned the people who were there for the right reasons. And, as of recent, I think I've only been back on a few weeks now, and the reception has been, man, it's been unbelievable.
Yeah,
I've
I've seen
had
it, man.
thousands upon thousands of messages. And, I'm a cop now. Not a lot of people know that, until I had posted a photo in my uniform.
Yeah, I
And,
didn't know that until I saw it. I was like, wait, what? What happened?
yeah, man, I went back to that life because I still want to serve. I still have that like servant's heart. And,
When you say that life,
I,
you're talking about the uniform life, the service life. Is that what you're referring to?
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. I felt like that I was lost for the longest time with no direction. And so, going back to law enforcement, it really kept me on my toes, and it reminded me I got to be doing the right thing, So what kind of pressured me to get back on was that I had fought all the demons that I had in my life, and I focused on getting some counseling. I have a good woman in my life. I've gotten my mind on track, my heart's on track. And, I had a conversation with somebody not too long ago, and they were like, dude, your story is so great, from the things that you've been through as a child, through your military time to now. There's no reason that you shouldn't be on social media showing people that you can dig yourself out of the deepest ruts as long as you believe in yourself and you do it the right way. And so one day I thought, man, I'm just going to get back on and just see who I can inspire, and see if I can change the path that I was on prior, and bring something new to this world.
Do you feel like you might slip into old patterns and old habits that might take you down a path that you aren't interested in traveling at this point?
Honestly, man, I don't see that at all. As a matter of fact, yesterday I was kind of put to the test a little bit. I posted a picture of my lady and I in the kitchen. She was cooking for me. Mm-hmm. And people were in my inbox, saying things like, I'll give you an example. Some guy said, hey, what's her Instagram? She's thick. And in the past, I would have just lost it.
Yeah.
I literally just put on there, hey, it's time to be a gentleman and not a boy anymore. And, I let it be. I think what's beautiful about taking time to yourself and really just kind of focusing on you and finding yourself and your person. And when you get rid of all the nonsense and the weight that you have on your shoulders and the bullshit persona, and you drop your ego like you're super hard or something, when you can just kind of push all of that out of the side and you're just make yourself vulnerable in life, you realize that you don't need to do those things to be accepted. You don't. So I don't see myself going down that path. It's nothing but positivity and love and friendships and support from me here on out. It's not the old Tank that everybody thinks. That old guy was depressed. I was drinking all the time, and I had lost my way completely. But I feel like I'm found now, man, and I'm back to where I need to be.
I mean, I've noticed a huge change just in your demeanor, in your tone, even just on social media. I go through and I take a look at the way you speak, the way you articulate yourself, and even your pictures, your smile and your demeanor, and just your pictures on Instagram. Like, it's different, man. It truly is different. And
Thanks,
that's why I was
brother.
looking forward to having this conversation, because I know so many guys are lost. Whether it's drug abuse or alcoholism or some sort of trauma or abuse when they were younger, or a
Right.
job loss, medical problem. I mean, men are really, really having a hard time. And I thought, man, you're a man who, just because I know you, has gone through some of this, and I want to get into it. And yet you've pulling yourself out of that despair that you were in. And that's a really inspiring message to people.
Right. I think, I agree with you. There are millions of men, women going through something personal. And where I think a lot of people fail is that hard look in the mirror as, who the fuck am I and what am I here for? Do I want to live my life based on what has happened to me in the past or the things that I've done in the past? Or do I literally want to cut those ties and move on and be as great as I can? And too many people are unwilling to gut check themselves and say, hey, here's the things that I've done, or here's the things that I've been through, and I'm fucking cutting the umbilical cord right now, and I'm moving on, or I'm going to let these things control my life for the rest of my life, and I'm going to live under somebody else's thumb or their watch. It's no secret, Ryan, that I've said it on the internet, and I used to say it because I know that there were people out there hurting, and I'm willing to say it here and right now because I know hundreds of thousands of people are going to view this, and I'm no longer afraid. But, man, when I was 4 and 5 years old, I was sexually abused. Like, it was bad. I was locked in a closet as a child, and it took my childhood away from me, and it made me think things that are not real. And that was my first struggles in life, and my parents weren't there for me, the people that I needed the most. And so as I'm growing up, I felt like I didn't have a childhood. That little boy inside was trying to escape and like find his way. And so as I'm growing up and I'm studying psychology and I'm in the military and I'm doing all these things, I was trying to find my way still, while people were out there and they had already found their way, who have never been through struggles. So, when I'm in my 20s and I'm trying to learn how to be a man still and figure things out, man, by the time I got to my 30s, I was fucking depressed. I was drinking. I was on the internet screaming and traveling every day and doing crazy things, and I wasn't being the dad that I needed to be, or the husband at the time that I needed to be, or the friend that I needed to be, the brother, you know. And there are too many times that I just said, man, my past has completely got me, and I'm going to let it be in control of me today. You know, I really had to get rid of my ego. I really had to accept the fact that I was a victim, and that it's okay to be that person, man. It's okay to stumble. It's okay to fall. It's okay to hurt. And it's okay to go through those hardships, but it is not fucking okay, Ryan, to let those things hold you back from being as beautiful as you can be in the future. And I feel like there are too many men and too many women out there that just don't hear it enough, that they're worth it and they're special, and it's okay to go through those rough times. And we all think that we are in control, but we're not. And it's not until we grasp on to somebody or something that literally proves to us that we can come out of the darkest places that sometimes we can't take that step ourselves. And that's why I thought it was important to come back on the internet and say, hey, man, not only have I been through a really abusive childhood where I feel like I didn't have a chance to be a little boy, I've also been in war and I've experienced the rigors of that. I've also been in law enforcement, and I had a lot of crazy things all the time out here. I've been through a divorce. You know, I've lost full custody of my child. I've been through a lot, and here I am, more positive now than I've ever been. And it's because one day I finally said, I'm done being that person. I'm done letting those chains bind me down to that one thing and that one reason in my life. And I got them cut, and here I am, man, and I feel like I'm on top of the world. And everybody else out there needs to know, like, that opportunity. You have that choice to clear your head, take the time for yourself, and get yourself figured out.
That's a powerful message. I know when we talked yesterday, because we wanted to kind of address what it is we wanted to go over and cover and what we thought would be beneficial for people to hear. You talked about being a victim, and you talked about the shame that you had with that as well.
Yeah.
And so you buried it because you didn't, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth. I want to turn the time to you and talk about that, because I think there is obviously a lot of shame that comes from that, and people don't ever deal with it.
They don't. Yeah. You hit it on the head, man. Shame is exactly what you feel. You know, I remember those moments. They'll never leave my mind. And the shame that you feel growing up, thinking that you weren't able to defend yourself, and what you wanted was defend you themselves. I needed back then was somebody to defend me and stand up for me, and I didn't get that. So I've literally grown up my entire life defending myself. You know, 16, 17 years old, I'm fist fighting people all the time because I feel like they're talking about me. Or I joined the military and I'm like, I got to be a black belt instructor because I got to make it to the top, and I got to do this and I got to do that. And, you know, I got to be with this many women a year or be. And what I was doing was just drowning myself in that shame. I was drowning myself with no faith, thinking that I was never going to amount to anything because everything that I was supposed to be was taken from me. So instead, man, I just decided that day when I deleted everything and I had a good woman walk in my life, I just thought, I don't want to be this person no more. I don't want to let these things hold me back. And there is no shame in crying like a man, and there's no shame in letting people know the things that you've been through, because I truly believe a real leader in this world, especially in this lifetime, is one who is willing to put himself out there and be so absolutely vulnerable that you literally just open your heart to everybody and let everybody know everything about you that has hurt you your entire life. Whether it hurts you or not, I think it's like you rebuilding yourself, because there are other people who are going, I've been through that and I've never known how to deal with it. And if he's willing to give his side and tell the world that he's been through this, then why can't I? I can release these demons and these shackles that hold me down. You know, we were talking the other day, and I told you, I think it was a little over 2 years ago, I had a Marine Sergeant Major reach out to me after I had said online I'd been abused as a kid, and I was no longer going to let that hold me back. And he said, I wanted you to know that I was raped multiple times when I was a child, and I've never let that go. And tonight, after watching your live feed, I'm going to go tell my wife what I've experienced.
Hmm.
Dude, like that. I mean, I'm getting emotional saying that, because if you think about it, Ryan, there's not too many people out there who are willing to just give it all and just say, this is me. And imagine if everybody was like that and they were really in it for the right reasons. How many people's lives could you change with the words that come out of your mouth? And not only that, but by the actions of you backing that up by being there for a person. I can't be there for everybody. I can't. You know, I got thousands of messages and I want to reach out to every one of them, but I can't. But the fortunate thing is I can, by being vulnerable and just continuing to tell my story of why I failed and now why I'm so strong and I'm back.
I really appreciate you sharing that. I know that's a hard thing. It must be still, right?
Yeah,
Do you
yeah, for
think,
sure. It's all good.
do you think there's any potential downside with this level of vulnerability? Are there fears that you have, whether you're exposing yourself to people who, I don't know, maybe take advantage of it or not fully appreciate it, or use it as you maybe even as a step stool? You know what I mean? I don't know what that would look like. I'm just
Yeah.
wondering if there's a negative side, something that people ought to be aware of when it comes to expressing some of these things as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Because sometimes when you express yourself, you start to think like, was that actually worth it? Like, I mean,
Mm,
oh God, is somebody going to think any different of me? But here's the deal: life isn't about being weak; it's about being strong. So if you make a decision, just stick to it and be strong about it. You don't have to always share with everybody everything, but if you just want to give somebody a bit and a piece of who you are, then do it, because you don't know if that person needs that bit and piece of you to complete that puzzle that they've never been able to complete. And you might be that person that does that for them. So, you know, I see it sometimes it could be a downfall, and I'm not out there spreading the gospel of what I've been through with everybody all the time. I don't do that anymore, but I do to people who reach out to me and they say, hey man, I'm hurting and here's what I'm going through. I try to take the time and tell them, here's what I've been through and here's how I worked on it. It might be something that's beneficial to you and it might not be. But I think a lot of people who struggle these days, Ryan, simply need somebody to just talk to or somebody to just lean on, maybe just a shoulder to cry on, man. And it may not be me that you're able to do that with, but it's got to be somebody. And I promise you, when they're able to do that, it's literally like releasing 1,000 pounds of weight off of their shoulder, man. It's enlightening.
yeah, I bet. Well, you know, and one of the things I'm hearing you say too is there's a reason for it, and the motive, from my perspective, is pure. You know, I see a lot of people who are fake on social media, and you know, we all put a little bit of a persona out there, right? Because that's, you know, part of the deal. But I see
Right.
so many fake people, and they're using victimhood, whether it's real or not. They're using victimhood as scoring some sort of credibility points, and
Oh
but
yeah.
but what you're doing is different. You're not using it to get attention, which is what most people seem to be doing these days.
Yeah, not at
You're
all.
you're doing it to help people, like to genuinely put yourself out there so that you can serve other people, and that motive is pure, which I think keeps the idea of expressing vulnerability more powerful than just using it as a tool to wield control over people.
Right, I agree. I don't care if somebody wants to hear it or not. I've already, you know, I've been that guy that I just wanted a following or whatever. You know, I've
Right.
done that in the past, and dude, it is literally a dark pit, and nobody cares. Where I'm at in my life today is like, if I wanted attention from that, I would continue to tell a sob story all the time because people just buy into that. You just see me smile out there doing my workouts with my girl, with my kids. I'm out there with kids in the community that I've been putting on the internet or whatever. And I haven't one time since I've been back on even spoken of my childhood or anything that I've gone through in the past. I think a lot of people already know what I've been through, and I just want to show them through photos and video and me just being positive that sometimes it's worth like getting rid of those things and just moving on. You're right, man. There's a lot of fake bullshit on the internet and social media. And I know quite a few people who portray to be one way and that aren't. And, I'll be the first to say, man, I'm telling you right now, for everybody that's going to watch this, I had been that person at one point too. And when you are that person at one point, it's easy for you to point out the type of people who are doing that as
Right.
well.
You see the tactics, right?
100%, man. I look back now and I'm like, I remember doing that, and I remember the reason why I did it. And I'm like, they're doing that, and I know why you're doing it, and I'm not going to be a part of that, and I don't want anything to do with you. I see it all the time, man. And it's because people want to chase some clout per se, or they want to chase a higher ranking on social media, or whatever the word or the verbiage is that they would like to use.
They want that blue check or whatever it is, right?
They do. And the crazy thing is, Ryan, is eventually they're going to crash and burn just like I did. And it's going to be the hardest wake up call. And then they're really going to find out what they're going to have to be worth once they take that ride,
Well, I think the problem is, let's say you're chasing social media fame or a number of followers or whatever. And look, we all get it. I get into it. I fall, and I know, but I know it's a trap, and yet I still fall into it. But
Yeah.
when is enough enough? Never. Like that's a cup that can never be filled.
It can never
when I
be
have
filled.
100,000, when I have 500,000, when I have 1,000,000, when I'm making this much money, these are all cups that can never be filled, and we miss out on so much of life. Your son's probably close to my oldest son's. My oldest son's 12. How old's your son?
My boy just turned 14.
14. So I knew he was close.
Yeah.
Look, if that's what you're chasing, there's things that you're never going to get back. Your boy's out of the house in the next 4 to 5 years. Mine's the next 5 to 6 years.
I know.
And it's done, man. It's over. Yeah, you'll still have a relationship, but not like we do now, not the opportunities we do now.
No, not at all, man. And I look back now and I regret so many things and so much of the time that I missed. And I'm like, what can I do to make up for that time? Absolutely nothing. So the only thing for me to do now is just to try to be the best dad that I can be, provide in any way that I can, and just be there. I just want to show up, And, you were talking about chasing a cloud and it never being enough. I see guys who do in the internet and media really well, and then I see guys who really don't. And there is such a huge difference in those people that I've hung out with. I'll give you an example of somebody that does the internet right, okay? That says what they mean what they say, and they're always like, they are some of the salt of the earth. Is who Neil is, the owner of Ready Gunner?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I know Neil very well.
I've hung out with Neil probably 100 times. I used to at one point consider him one of my closest friends. He was like my dude, he was the calm in the storm in my head. I stayed with him. It was maybe 2.5, 3 years ago. He and his wife, Buff Cookie. I stayed at their house in Utah one time, and I'm down in the basement, and I was going through a divorce and some other things that it just wasn't good for me. And I got on a live feed and I was just crying. Literally, if somebody was staying at my house and they're on a live feed crying and talking about things that they're going through, I'm like, this person needs to leave. Okay. That's probably how I'd be feeling, right? Neil comes down and sits on the floor with me, and he just talks me literally like I'm off the ledge or something. He just talks me off of it. It's like, I'm here for you. Well, when I'd gotten off of social media, I didn't talk to Neil hardly, maybe like once every 9 months, but I did that to everybody. I deleted everyone's numbers. I changed my phone number. I did that so I could just focus on me. Neil and I have gone right back to where we started, but it's way stronger now. And where Neil does it right is he's not on his phone 24/7. He balances his wife life, his dad life, and his business life correctly. And I've never heard him talk negatively about anybody else or ask, how can I be better than this person? He has done it right. So he is a prime, and he is the example of who I would like to be as a human being one day when it comes to just friends. And, I've got a multitude of people who are like that. I say multitude, but I mean like in the palm of my hand. There's
Right,
people that I
sure.
don't want to be like. But the point I'm making is Neil told me one time, and this has stuck with me forever. He looked me in my eye and he said, Tank, persistency will get you there, and consistency will keep it. And I thought about that, and man, it was like a light bulb just went off. I have been inconsistent my entire life. I'm up and I'm down and I'm up and I'm down. I need to just cut everything out of my life and start over. So Neil has a huge part to do with that. Dakota Meyer does a little bit as well.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to find a balance in your life. And I think it's important to also latch on to somebody that is a prime example of who you want to be or what you want to be like in your life. And you don't have to just be just like them, but just bring some type of example. Sometimes it's good to just walk in the footsteps of another person in the snow because it keeps you from stepping on landmines, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So, man, he's been a good example of that. I don't know if I just got off track a little bit. Just
not at all. We can talk about whatever we want. So we can go any way we want. Actually, I do want to talk with you about kind of getting off track a little bit on that theme. You talked about ups and downs, and I know I've got people in my life who are, we'll use the word intense. And I'm not. Yeah. I tend not to be like that. I'm pretty even keel. Like I get passionate and excited about things, but I'm pretty level. But I have friends who are intense, and so their highs are high and their lows are crashes, and they're just like bouncing back and forth, up and down, up and down. Would you describe that as your personality? And if that's the case, then how do you level some of that stuff off so the highs maybe aren't quite so high and the lows aren't quite so low?
Man, that is a damn good question, brother. I used to be that person, and I think everybody knew that. Man, there'd be one day where I'm jumping out of a helicopter and I'm on cloud 9 and everything's great, or I was jumping in water, jumping on alligators, catching them with my hand, and then the next day I'd be crying and sobbing my eyes out, and I'm pounding out a Bud Light trying to figure my life out.
Yeah,
had the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows, and I'll tell you, the only thing that taught me to balance that, for one, I started to get my faith back. Victor Marx was a preacher who literally was in my ear, took me to a hotel room in Oklahoma City, put his hands on me and told me, like, I'm going to be here for you no matter what. So I started to follow him as an example of a dad and a husband. And then I started to collect all this data. My buddy Mark Shelton here in Arlington, Texas, where he lives, I go and I visit him, and he's kind of like my mentor. So when I'm feeling like something might be off, I call him. He gives me the good word. My buddy Cafe Anderson, who I think a lot of people know, if I need some like faith in my life, Cafe will whip it right back into me. So what I did was I stopped listening to the people who had highs and had lows, and I stopped trying to be there so much for everybody else. And I started just trying to be there for me. The problem was that I didn't love myself enough or think that I was worthy of something to have an even kill. So I was just letting myself bounce like a slinky. But when I started adding those people in my life that gave me that fine balance of things, it started to allow me to learn what that balance should be. And when I started following their example and their lead, I went from here and I started to edge back down, and then I hit it right here. Got a good woman in my life. I stayed on the straight line. My relationship started to build back with my son. I didn't have social media and bullshit in my ear. My girlfriend didn't have any social media or anything going on in her ear. There were people like Rich, the owner of Rockwell, who would call me and say, hey, I just wanted to tell you today that I love you. And it was a reminder. It was that day that I might have needed that. And then it would be random. And then what had happened is when that line started to pan out, I started to see all the people who were in my life prior that were keeping me on that roller coaster.
Interesting.
And then I started to see the people when I hit this line. I started to see the people who should have been there the entire time and who will remain in my life for the rest of my life. They're the ones who keep me on that even kill. You know, it's like that heart rate monitor, man. You go in there and you've been through a bunch of shit and your heart's going fluctuating, but then you get your mom in the hospital with you and she's holding your hand. And it's that level of like love and appreciation and just a reminder that you're worth it that started to pan me out, man. Just like that monitor.
That's interesting. Yeah.
It's because I got off of social media completely. I didn't have any bullshit to look at or pay attention to. And then I deleted everybody's number out of my phone that I really just didn't feel like was there at the time or that would have added to me helping myself. And then I put like 5 strong men and a couple really strong women in my life. And dude, it took me from being that high and that low and put me right back on track. And I'm not looking back since.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I had written down here. You said initially you were talking about faith, and in the context you talked about it initially, you weren't. I don't think you were talking about spiritual faith. I think initially, earlier in our conversation, you were talking faith in yourself, like faith that you could do
Yeah,
this, faith that you could get better, faith that you could improve. And it sounds like part of the answer
absolutely.
to the question I wanted to ask is having the right people. But the question I was going to pose was, how did you develop even the slightest amount of faith in yourself when you had a track record that maybe suggested otherwise to you? Right? Like, how is it that you thought to yourself, I can do this, when everything in the past may have pointed to, no, you can't?
Wow. That's another really good question, man. Sometimes in life you just gotta either nut up or shut the fuck up,
Hmm.
you know? And there were too many times that I just thought I was actually being about it, but I wasn't really about it. Unless you're really willing to go all in 100% or nothing at all, you'll never find that. You'll never find that peace in your mind. You'll never find your heart rate going down. And I was, again, too focused on everybody else and what everything else was going on around me instead of just saying, I'm going to do it. And it goes back to Neil's saying, persistence will get you there. Consistency will keep it. So I spent 22, 23 months of my life being consistent every day, waking up on time, started to make my bed again. Okay. I started to go to the gym and train every day. I went through a police academy. I graduated #1 in the academy as the class president. I was top
Wow, well
honors.
done.
Yeah. And I just, it was every day doing the exact same thing. And it started to get me to where I wanted to be. And, I see all these guys that talk about it all the time, Dakota and Jocko and Neil and there's just a mound of people, David Goggins, so on and so forth. I didn't really focus on all the things that they were saying because I was completely off of the internet, but they're winners. The winners are the people who are consistent every day. They wake up and they do the same thing every day and they focus on themselves and the beauty of life and where they want to be instead of focusing on, oh, what is this person? And then this, and you're just shooting a bunch of fucking arrows trying to hit one target. And
Yeah.
it's like, you're doing it blindly. So I just one day woke up and said, I'm going to wake up every day and have the exact same routine. I'm going to show up to my appointments on time. I'm going to write down the things that I'm supposed to write down. I'm going to go to work on time, or I'm going to train every day on time, and I'm going to be good to this person, and I'm going to find my way again. And I think that it was the consistency that allowed me to stay on track.
You seem, that system and that routine seems really valuable, and you see it like from the outside looking in. I look at your experience as a Marine. You seem to me like you were probably an amazing, amazing Marine. You take that same discipline and you apply it with the police department. Why did you leave the Marine Corps? It seemed like I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems to me
Yeah,
like you thrived in that environment. I'm really curious as to why you decided to leave. Or maybe that wasn't the
man,
case. I don't know. I don't know the situation.
I left. Yeah, I left right at just I think a month shy of 13 years. I was getting promoted to gunny, and one day I just said enough was enough. I went on a deployment. I had a really crappy deployment. I
Hmm.
came back and I wasn't home but a few days, and I ended up having to go back overseas. And I remember it like it was yesterday. My little boy he said, Dad, are you going to be at my baseball games? And I said, yeah, I'm going to be there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a few nights later, hey, you got to go back. And I'm like, what? Changed my whole thought process. When I had to go and wake up my son and tell him Dad's got to go to the airport, it was like he had a seizure, Ryan. He literally shook and he cried uncontrollably and he couldn't get his thoughts together. And that changed my life, man. I started to realize that my time with my child was more important, and my time with my wife at the time was more important than like trying to play hero. And I had an incredible career, man. I had been meritoriously promoted 3 times. I was combat meritoriously promoted on the spot in Ramadi, Iraq, by General Dunford himself, who was our former chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff. I have nothing but respect for that man. He actually wrote me a personal letter of recommendation to the police chiefs and told a story of something that I had done in Iraq. We won't get into that, but I'm I'm obviously no hero, but we had some crazy shit go down and some stuff happened, and General Dunford just so happened to be rolling up at the time of it going down. And so he wrote me a really beautiful letter, and it helped me out, obviously. But, you know, I thought it was just time, man. I tell everybody this, Ryan. I just talked about it the day before yesterday. I talked to a guy who reached out to me, said that he was contemplating suicide. And I told him life is like a book. And every step and stage of our life, we are writing our chapters. And you get rid of a chapter and then you move on to the next one. You know, it could be 3 years that you're stuck in that chapter until your next one comes. But what tends to happen to many people is they try to stay stuck in that chapter because it was either a beautiful time in their life, like college,
Right.
or it was either a shitty time in their life that drags them down. Until you're able to really like move out of that chapter and move on to the next chapter, you never know how beautiful that new chapter may be in your life. At the end of that book, it says the end. That is death. Do you want that book to be written the end with every chapter being the same because you decided to stay on that one fucking chapter the entire time? No, you don't. So the beautiful part about a good book is knowing that in every chapter is something different, something beautiful, or something that you're going to be able to connect to. And there's too many people that ride that same chapter of their life and there's no ending to their book, and they're never able to complete it. So nobody receives anything from it when that day comes for them to leave the face of this earth. I've told people many times, you die one time, but you get a chance to live every day until that moment. You have to continue to write your chapters, and you have to close them out, and you have to continue to move on. If you don't, you'll be a stalemate, and nobody will have never learned anything or gathered any data from you as a human being by their time to write their next chapter.
That's really powerful, man. I've never heard it put like that, but that is really, really powerful. That, like, I even think about that even as a father. You know, and we were talking about it a minute ago as I see my son get older and him getting closer to leaving, and I have other children as well. And I think, you know, at some point they'll be gone, and I actually don't look forward to that day. But at the same time, I also look forward to at some point being a grandfather and being with my wife, just her and I, and us being able to travel and do things. So, you know, closing a chapter can be painful, but there has to be some level of hope and optimism for the next chapter.
There's hope and optimism, and there's beauty in it too, Ryan. You go hunting with your son, right? You just did it the other day.
Right.
Well, eventually, you're going to be hunting with your grandbaby.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
the beauty of that chapter that closed, man, because that never ends. That never ends. You have a memory in that chapter. You moved on to the next one, and then your job as a grandfather is to make sure you're still trying to help your son stay in check to be a good dad himself and a good husband to his wife. But you also have a new chapter of becoming the best damn grandfather that you can be. You're teaching your grandbaby, hey, this is what Papaw is here for right now, and I want you to gather that data, and I want you to read the end of, all the way through my book until the end. And he's going to take some of you, and he's going to write that in one of his chapters.
Yes.
And then that's how your lineage passes on from human being to human being. And that's how we continue with good bloodlines, man, is we do the consistency of, I finish this chapter, I move to the next. Here's the beauty of it, and here's what I got out of it, and here's what I want you to learn from it, and now I'm on to the next. I say, you know, I'm thinking hopefully I live to be 100 years old, right? Hopefully there's 100 chapters in my book. But unfortunately, I spent too much fucking time and too much effort worrying about everybody else that I have a chapter of about 4 years of just bullshit and drama that's stuck in that book. But the beautiful part about the next chapter that was to come after that one is that it's called, I'm going to call it lessons learned in my head. Here's the things that I would do and that I would never do again. And here's the chapter that you're going to be able to find that in. And that's how you read me.
That's, I really like the concept of you being in somebody else's book as a positive or a negative, right? Like you could be in somebody else's book and that could be a shitty chapter for them, or you could be in somebody else's book and that could be the most beautiful chapter for them.
Dude, let me tell you something. I want to bring up a story, and I haven't talked about this man for the longest time, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. When I first got on social media, there's a guy, his name is Wes Whitlock. He's the owner of Rogue American Apparel.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, I know of Wes.
I got introduced to Wes one of the biggest men that I've ever seen. I looked up to Wes just because of his strength. His mental capacity was strong. I came into his shop and I was a loudmouth punk ass dude. I just got out of the Marines, thought my shit didn't stink, blah, 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 playing that pro vet card and everything else, right? So I went in there, I'm screaming and I'm making videos and everything else. And what I was doing was, and I didn't realize this at the time because I had an ego, I was running business for him. I was representing his company, helping him or whatever I thought I was doing, when in actuality, I was making him look stupid. I was making him look dumb because he was supporting somebody that shouldn't be there. And so in the end, it was like, what am I doing? I don't think Wes likes me to this day. And honestly, I really could care less, but I don't dislike Wes. And I'll tell you why I don't dislike Wes. Because Wes has been consistent. I haven't been. Wes deserved better of a friend, and he's built a business and he's doing his thing. In the end, the way that I see it is this, is like, Wes cut me completely out of his life. I heard a couple things over the internet or whatever, and I don't hear anything anymore, and it doesn't matter. But Wes was doing it right, okay? So Wes cut me out of his life, whatever the case may be. I was a part of Wes's chapter in the book that he's writing for his future of this is who the fuck you do not need to be, and this is why it's bad juju to hang out with somebody like this. I respect that chapter of Wes's book, and I respect that, and I respect him as a man. And what I was doing for the longest time was like, oh, I heard somebody said something about me, and I was blaming them for saying something about me, when in reality, it's because of me. I'm the one who was doing all the dumb shit and thinking like, oh, this and that. And you know what? If you don't like me for who I am, then fuck you. I used to say that all the time.
Yeah.
No, man, you got to respect people. You got to respect people's businesses. You got to respect the things that they're doing in their lives. And if they kick you out of it, it's because of a reason. Any drama that you or anybody else has come in your life today is because of something that you did, not anybody else. Nobody just talks shitty about you because, you know, I just feel like picking that guy today. No, it's because you did something fucking dumb. You did something dumb. You need to be put in check, man. Unless you're willing to really put yourself in check, you're going to be a part of somebody's chapter that's going to be shit. Now, here's the beautiful thing. If I go down there and I say, hey, Wes, I just want to give you a hug and tell you that I'm sorry for being that fucking guy that I shouldn't have been and you didn't deserve it. 3 to 4 years down the road, there's going to be a new chapter where he says, this is how you should be as a man, by apologizing, accepting your mistakes, taking responsibility for your actions, and moving on. That's beauty being written in somebody else's book or somebody else's chapter. It can be good or bad, but it should always be the best in the ending.
Yeah, and the power that we have to redeem ourselves. Have you done that with? And I'm not saying Wes necessarily, but have you done that with other people that you feel like maybe you've burned a bridge or that you've caused some real problems in relationships? Have you gone back now through the last couple of years and tried to make amends to the best of your ability? And granted, like you can't force them to accept an apology, but you can put it out there. I'm curious how that's gone for you.
Man, you know what? I have recently. I've actually reached out to a few people, Dakota being one of them. I went down south and hung out with Dakota for about 30 minutes, and I just told him that I loved him and he deserved a better friend. I was on the Drinking Bros podcast not too long ago, and they had asked me, why'd you leave Black Rifle Coffee? I said, because they deserve better. They deserve better. They deserve a better me. I was being somebody that I shouldn't have been, and they got it right. I didn't. So if I'm going to be a man about it, I need to bow out and say, I need to change. You know, they deserved more. They're good people. They were treating me with the utmost respect, and they gave me everything that I needed. Why wasn't I able to give that in return? It's because I wasn't loving myself, man. I couldn't figure myself out here. So how can I figure things out with other people? It just wasn't working right. But I have taken the time out to reach out to a few people and tell them I burned you, man, and I owe you the biggest debt of gratitude, and I owe you the biggest apology, and I love you, and I'm sorry. You know, that's all I can offer these days, Ryan, is an apology and action. That's it. You know, I'm not out there trying to make $1 million and do all this shit now, man. I'm a small partner in a company called Retro Rifle. We make really badass shirts. That's it. But I'm not trying to blast the world and do all these things. The owners of that company and I have come together, and we have a mutual agreement that here's how life is going to be. And that's how it's going to be. And so I don't want to start off on the wrong foot. I want to start off on the right foot by telling all those people. And if I have an opportunity now, you know, to tell anybody that I've ever treated wrongly or indifferent, or I've run business for you, or I've done you wrong, man, I apologize. That was the worst thing that I could have ever done. I needed to check my ego, and I needed to work on myself. And those people, they deserve that apology, you know. And I hope that, you know, hell, I hope Wes sees this, and I hope a few other guys that probably have some heartache about me see that. You know, it's been a hard 22 to 23 months of me really gut checking myself every day and getting at it to realize how much wrong that I did, more than good, in my opinion. And here I am now just trying to rebuild some relationships. I don't need to have best friends, man. Maybe acquaintances, but I want them to know that it's genuine and that I love them, you know?
How is how has that path gone as you've talked to these individuals and apologized and attempted to make amends? Like, how has that been received by these people? And we don't have to get specific, but I'm curious about how receptive they've been to that.
There's been one guy who hasn't reached back out to me. It was actually over social media. I sent him a bunch of videos. I said, hey, man, if I was a shitty friend, I owe you. You know, and I said a few other videos. They just basically said, fuck me. And that's okay. I'm not worried about that. But there are a few more that I've reached out to, and they said, hey, man, I'm just glad you found your way. Here's my cell. Talk to me anytime. And we've been in touch ever since, you know?
Yeah.
You know, you're never going to get 100% on your side, and that's okay. I'm not trying to get people on my side. I'm just trying to say, hey, man, I'm sorry if I did this wrong. Here I am today, and I'm just being vulnerable and telling you that I was wrong. You know, there's not a lot of people that are willing to say that they're the problem, and I
No,
was
not at all.
an issue, man. I was the issue. I see it now. Go ahead, brother.
I was just going to ask, do you feel like you ever take it too far and get too hard on yourself? Like, do you go to dark places and you're like, man, and dwell on who you were in the past, or what's been your strategies for leaving that guy behind and not letting him rear his ugly head again? Or affect your attitude moving forward?
I think I used to battle depression and anxiety so bad that I would bite my nails in my sleep and not even realize it. I would wake up and there would be nails on my pillow. Well, I don't bite my nails anymore, you know? And I say that because it was me getting in my own head thinking that somebody was being negative about me. And then as I started to like go through some counseling, I started to realize that sometimes we get in our own head when there's nothing actually being said. And so what is there really to worry about? The only thing that we can do is just try to be a good person, give it our best. And if it doesn't work out, then who cares? Let it play out the way it's supposed to play out. And so as I'm growing in my mid-30s right now, and I'm learning about accepting responsibility for my actions and how important that is, I'm starting to realize that I don't care. I don't care if somebody accepts what I have to give them or not. If you accept my apology, great, let's move on like men, and let's, you know, we can be friends, acquaintances, or never talk again. If you don't, then that's on you. You probably hate yourself, or you have something going on, or there's really some type of grudge there that you're harboring, and it might not be about me, honestly. Yeah. So in the end, I let it go, man. I say my bid and I let it go.
It's all you can do. Like, what more can you do? I mean, and we've seen people dwell on it, and this goes back to your beginning statements about, you know, trying to win people over and care so much about what they think, and then that affects your actions and your behavior, and then it doesn't. It's not you, right? It's somebody else you're trying to become for these people. Yeah, man.
I think that is true. I used to try to become somebody that I wasn't, and when I started to do that, I completely changed, and I shouldn't have. Now I feel like my mind is so clear that I know what I'm doing every day. I don't need to be on my phone all day. I get on and I write people back, and I I talk to folks and I do little things here and there, but my time is limited, and my time on the face of this earth is limited. And I'm trying to write a new chat my son can read one day, and that my future wife can read one day, and that people who really need like good word and they need to see somebody who's been through the shit that has really rebounded, they need as well. So if you don't want to be a part of that chapter, then you don't have to be. It's not your book. So I'm just I've moved on, and I'm just trying to create good memories and new things for my future.
Yeah. On that note, what was the decision with joining the police? Like, how's that been? What's that process been like? And why did you make that decision?
I've always wanted to be a cop since I was a kid. When I first got out of the Marines, I got hired at a police department in Texas, and then
oh, so you were a police officer before?
Well, I went through the academy. I was actually number one in that academy too. I mean, it was great.
Wow. Okay.
And then I had started on social media and everything, and then like Black Rifle Coffee was fun, and then it just didn't work out for me. And I'd done a video that I thought was going to get me fired more than likely at the time, and so I just ended up resigning. And then I moved on, and then I started working with BRCC for a while, and then I still had that burning desire, man. I thought, if I'm really going to get myself back on track, I need stability, and I need to be doing something that just really feeds my soul every day. Doing that is, I love to shoot guns. I love to be around people, and I love to help out kids. That's like my biggest thing, man. If you look at my Instagram, Warrior, WARRIOR, and you see some of my photos, I'm out with the kids all the time.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is I'll come off of a call where somebody literally just died in my arms, and I'll go play basketball with some kids like 20 minutes later. It doesn't affect me really. I see it as life. I see it as a part of the job, but I'm in love with what I do. Am I going to do it forever? Absolutely not. My goal in the next few years is to get one of those Sprinter vans. My lady and I hit the road, push retro rifle in every store, and every store I possibly can in America, and see what I can do with that with the rest of the guys that own the company.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I was going to ask about just the climate and society in general's perspective, or changing, evolving. I don't know what the right word is. Perception of law enforcement in this country. What's your take on that?
Man, I try to keep my answers limited on that, but I will tell you that where I'm at, I drive around an entire county, and I get 95, I'm just throwing a number out there because it's high. I get 95% support, man. People have literally stopped me in the store and just prayed for me, and kids will stop and they'll hug me and they'll want to hang out, and I'll give them little patches. And then sometimes I'll go into really bad communities and I'll just eat a hot dog with somebody that they're grilling, and I'll just talk with them. It's all about building the relationships with folks, man. If I'm getting my butt kicked on the side of the road, Ryan, I want to know that guy that I just ate that hot dog with, who's a prior criminal, who's just trying to make it in this world, is going to stop and help me.
Yeah,
he's a human being just like I am. We both make mistakes. I'm here to help you. You're here to help me. And so the response for me has been pretty positive. Have I had a few? Yeah, man. My first day on the job, the very first day on the job, I'm sitting in the passenger seat. My boss is sitting there driving. I look over and I see this girl looking at me. She was pretty. I just looked over and all I did was like this. I just waved. She literally does this, looks at me and goes, she just flips me off, bro. Flips me off. And I was like, okay. So I just looked to the front and he goes, you're going to get that sometimes. And I was like, wow, that was random.
Yeah,
so I thought I was just going to get a wave back, And I'm like, what the heck, man? Are you kidding me? There's been some moments, but it's not that bad. I think it's all in the approach, man. It's all in the approach. And when it comes to society, and I think the media blows things up and a little out of proportion. Does there need to be change? Absolutely. I think if you want to be a good cop these days, you need some life experience, and you need training. And I'll go no further into that because that can be a hole that we could just dig into. But I think most cops will believe life experience helps you, and training.
For sure. Well, and I like too that you're talking about being involved with the community, right? Not just enforcing the law. Like, listen to that. I mean, enforcing the law. Of course, you'd be people's enemies, but you're talking about being with these people. You're part of the community. You're trying to keep them safe. You're trying to keep them. You're familiar with them. That's going to make a big change as well.
It does, man. And, I get sometimes there's been times where I've been on a call and somebody will recognize me from some old videos or something.
Oh, really?
And yeah, it happens a lot. It happens a lot. And, they'll be like, holy what? And then they'll just want to talk. And I'm like, hey man, like we're on a crime scene. I can't really talk about that. But,
Interesting. Yeah.
in the end, the beautiful thing is when you can just have a conversation with somebody, whether they're going to jail or not, you treat them like a human being. They have the utmost respect for you. I took a guy to jail a couple months ago. I ran into him a couple weeks back. He said, hey man, can I just give you a hug? And I was like, yeah. He's like, I just want to give you a hug. I've never been treated like that before when I've gone to jail. And he said, I've been to jail 30 times. And I'm like,
wow.
I was like, yeah, let's hug it out, man. I hugged him and I bought him a cheeseburger, you know? And so in the end, it's like, you can go in and you can enforce the law every day, which is, we're supposed to enforce the law.
Of course.
However,
right.
you can also be a human being and realize that when you're off of the job and you take your uniform off, you're still a cop 24/7. You got to do the right thing. You can enforce felonies on you. You can do whatever you got to do, but you're a human being and you're a citizen just like everybody else. They can treat you like crap. You can treat somebody else like crap, but everybody has rights and they have constitutional rights. And, you can't violate that. You can't treat somebody like crap, and I'm no better than anybody else just because I have a badge, man. It's a profession that I'm in love with. And I don't do it because I sit here and think, oh, I want to enforce the law today. I do it because I'm like, man, I can't wait to go play basketball with those kids today and just hang out with the community. That's the beautiful part to me, is that you have an opportunity to do that. People should be able to trust you, and they look forward to it, man. I drive my patrol unit up and down the street sometimes. The kids will chase me on their bikes, and I'll go buy them ice cream. Little challenges. I get in foot races with kids. I'm like, hey, if you beat me today, I'll go buy you an energy drink that you want, but you got to keep working out. If I beat them, I'm like, maybe next time, keep training harder. It's just those little things in the community. A cop did that for me when I was growing up. He's basically like my dad today. I call him dad, and I go and I visit him. He's helped me out, and he's been there since I was 10 years old. And without him, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. I wouldn't be able to pick myself up out of some dark places. And so I hope that I'm that for somebody one day myself.
I think you're going to be that for a lot of people, man. And I love to see your transformation and everything that you're doing. It's exciting. I'm also excited to see where this takes you, man. This path is just, it's inspiring for me. And I know it's going to inspire the guys, man. You're just doing some incredible stuff.
I hope so, brother. You have you have an incredible podcast. I've listened to a few of them. Super powerful. Kyle Carpenter, one of my favorites.
Yeah, man.
I remember
he's amazing.
I remember when you first started this. We talked about doing a podcast. My ego was a little high. I was trying to chase all these other things, and I wasn't able to do it. But here you are. You've been consistent. Your persistency got you there, and your consistency is keeping it. And you're growing, man, and it's a beautiful thing, and I'm proud of you. You put up something yesterday that it's got to be beneficial between both parties. I felt that. Sure. I screenshot it, too, and I keep it in my phone, and it's because it's true, man. Life isn't all about that one person. It's not all about me. It's about what can we do together to help somebody grow. And that's what I loved about doing this podcast with you today, is that I hope that there's one guy out of the thousands of people that follow your podcast that says, you know what, dude, I need to put my ego in check, or I need to apologize to somebody, or I need to let that bullshit go that I've done in the past, or that has hurt me in the past, and they move on. If they get something out of that, man, then this podcast is well worth it.
I know they are, because I'm that one guy. Like, if there's nobody else, I am, because I know at times, like, I let my ego get the better of me. Maybe I'm quick to respond harshly to somebody else, or critique a little harshly than I need to. So yeah, there's things I need to work on, and you've brought light to that as well, and I'm appreciative of it, man. I really am.
Good, brother. I appreciate that, and just always remember the chapters in your book, Ryan. Don't ever let that one chapter run over too far, man. When that cup runneth over, sometimes that's a negative thing, because it floods everything else around you and all the opportunities you have, and you can't escape it. So write that chapter, close it out, and move on to the next. You're never too good to move on to that next chapter, whether it be 2 days that you spend on it and you move on to the next one, or you spend a year on it, man. It is what it is. But I'm really thankful that you asked me to come on and just give me your time. It's been incredible, man.
Right on. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.